question in that I want to ask you, in this present circumstance, not dealing so much with the COVID, but dealing with the eruption, so much the eruption of protests and Antifa and Black Lives Matter, many of the things going on. What I want to know from you is, in conversations you've had on the Hill with elected officials regarding this crisis, if any of them be able to kind of confide to you, or do any of them have any thoughts to contribute to you regarding what they are seeing with that?
So that's a great question. There is a lot of concern by our conservative elected officials that the catalyst of change is people that feel left behind, left out. They don't have a seat at the table, and so they are mobilized to cause havoc. Now, from what I can see, and a few conversations that we've had, is everybody is pretty terrified, pretty scared at this whole situation. And so there are good people that are making unwise compromises, I believe, just because they fear losing their seat, losing their position, and because the overwhelming cry that they hear is that of terror and fear. So the answer really is, we have to be secure in who we are and what we're called of God to do, and not be dependent upon, in their case, their constituents, to hold a position. So whether I have a position, whether I lose a position, I'm going to do what I believe in, what I set out to do. And if I lose, I lose. I think that's the answer. But a lot of people are struggling with that, just as we would. So I think that answers your question. What are they saying? They're saying, this is a big deal. This is a big, big deal. Yeah. And they fear the redirection of our nation. And they want to stay in the wheel helm of the ship. And I want them to stay there. And so they're willing to make a few compromises in order to maintain a grasp on that wheel, which this is a tough situation.
Yes. Other questions? Right here, go ahead. Abigail, this question is being directed to Mrs. Wells.
Could you talk for a minute and give a few pointers to families who are homeschooling or considering homeschooling?
Yeah. Good.
Okay. Well, we started homeschooling from the get-go. We were on the mission field, and we went with the Abeka DVD curriculum because we wanted our children to speak English. And they weren't getting it elsewhere other than from my husband and I. So that was very good for us, and it was a kind of a plug-and-play curriculum. You just take everything with you, and then you could pass it down from child to child, which I had 5 seniors in a row. We had a year off this year, and then we have another one year off, and our last will graduate from high school. So that's worked very well for us, and we found that the diplomas that are issued, you only have to become accredited in the 12th grade. With Abeka, if you used it all the way through, and they'll issue the diploma without any problems, and that's been recognized. Most of our kids have continued the online scenario for college, and it's worked really well. They stayed with us, worked in the ministry. So as far as curriculum, that we like that one. There's other things you can do that are cheaper, or I should say less expensive. Here in the States, we didn't have that option because you can't just run down to, the local store and get what you need when you're on the field. So we went through for something that was all together. In a practical sense, I would say when you begin homeschooling, it's so overwhelming. You just feel like everything is up to you. And I put some pressures on my kids that I shouldn't have. I thought they were behind in their reading, and if they can't read it by this age, And I think I hindered some of their education through that. So I would encourage new moms to relax and realize that God is going to use you. Not every day is a good day in homeschooling, and that's okay. Some of the things for us, we ended up saying, well, we can't do that. We can't do all the science projects. We were growing a garden. Does that count for anything? You know, so realize that life skills are very important. Ministry skills are very important and useful, and don't put yourself like the message that he gave under the criticism of others. Who are you subjecting yourself to? Make sure, first of all, you're subjected to the Lord, your husband, and then just relax about that and let God work through you. And they'll get through. And they know, all of them know how to read and write. They can even figure math. I mean, it's incredible. They do it.
There, so before 30.
Yeah.
Amen.
So, Brother Carl.
I know you've got your eye on a building, Pastor Wells, and I wonder if you could give us any update and any ideas that are out there as far as funding and so forth.
Yeah. So we have a great desire to get into a building. Currently, we're in the Hill Center, which is 9th and Pennsylvania Southeast. So that's 9 blocks from the Capitol. It's a phenomenal place, directly across the street. So it'd still be 9th and Pennsylvania. Directly across the street is the old Jewish synagogue, which we've been praying about for years now. And there that is running the current church that's meeting in it. Well, that's not true. So they haven't been meeting there for a long time, but they've got some other property they want to sell. There's a big pushback on us purchasing that building, partly because their church and their people are moving out, partly because we're moving in, and there's all sorts of tensions between us, which is not good. It shouldn't be, but they're there. They're there. So, have we given up on that building? We have not given up. We are still praying for that building. It's the perfect building. We have called him
Yeah.
recently since COVID, and I said, can we rent? You're not using the building. Can we rent? And he just flatly said, our building is closed just like all the other buildings in DC. Okay. So it's pretty closed. In other words, the Red Sea is not opened, and unless God opens it, we will not cross.
Yeah.
So we need a miracle from God.
Pastor Brown.
Could you share with us, Brother Wells, about how you knew for sure you were supposed to leave the mission field and come home and pastor?
That's a good question. So, just for the sake of those online, the question is, how do we know for sure we were to leave the mission field, that is New Guinea, and come to DC? And there was, I think we got 5 major things that we felt that God was doing. First, God had really directed my heart away from foreign peoples to my own nation. That had started, and it had been going on for a year or two, and which was a big deal, because my heart was completely given to our people in New Guinea, and then it was drawn back. I was very, very concerned. Secondly, the ministry had grown in New Guinea to the point where either I needed to send away in business terms, the middle management that had arisen, some young men, some young families that were capable. So I either needed to send them out, or maybe we would butt heads just a little bit. And I didn't feel like they should be sent out. I felt like they were supposed to be taken over. So that was another element. The third element, our children were getting to the age that we needed to send them back to the States. They were not allowed to stay any longer in New Guinea, and they have that rule, and many third world countries have that rule, so that you don't take jobs away from from the nationals amongst whom you live. So we would have to send them back to the States, and we prayed about sending them to college, or coming back for a year and helping them get started in college and then leaving them there. And a lot of our friends did that, and colleagues, and I had no peace about doing that at all. I just couldn't do that. Not criticizing other people, but we just couldn't do that. And so we felt like we needed to come back and help them settle here in the States and go forward. Number 4 or number 5, I forget where I'm at, but there was a very specific thing happening. There was a meeting called Awake America, which is what I participate in, and all these pastors were getting together and praying, and my 2 brother-in-laws were part of this meeting, Matt and Jonathan, and they called me and told me all about this, and I was a little bit interested and ended up being very interested in it. And we had a special speaker come to New Guinea to speak for us, and he was staying at our house, and I got out the McNally map, and I was telling him about my heart to go back to the States and my heart to do something, and he was looking at these at the map, and I was talking about, well, I'm from the Northwest, so I'm praying about Seattle. I feel like somebody needs to do something in Seattle. Seattle's kind of the capital of the Northwest. Maybe I need to go there. And he's like, well, yeah. And we talked a little bit about New York City. My wife's mother is from New York City, so there was maybe we need to go to New York City. And we're just talking about feelings. There wasn't a specific call, but it was just kind of a desire. And this particular evangelist said, no, not Seattle, no, not New York. And he turned the page there from Washington State, and he said, you need to pray about this place. And it was D.C. I was like, D.C.? What are you talking about, D.C.? And he said, well, I want you to pray about that. And so I said, okay. And we prayed a little bit, but I was just, somebody asked me today, they said, were you like really into history and really into, the roots of America? No. I think that was when, Dad, you laughed. You're like, oh my goodness. No, I wasn't into that. I didn't have that desire. We didn't know anybody in D.C. There was nothing. But this guy said, pray about that. And we began to pray. And I actually wrote an email and to one of the pastors at Lighthouse Baptist Church in Alexandria, Virginia, which is just on the outskirts of D.C. And just, wrote, I have this desire. I feel like it might be a call and this sort of thing. And do you need help? And he didn't respond at all. There was nothing. And that evangelist left, and there was nothing. There was probably a 2-week time frame where I just, I don't know. And I went into my office, and on a Saturday, I really was just seeking the Lord, and I got down on this little prayer altar place in my office and had my little Sheffy sheepskin rug. You probably got one of those. Button Australian. And I knelt down on that, and I was praying, and I just said, Lord, I need a call. I need a call to stay. I need a call to go. Lord, would you just confirm this in my heart? I don't want to be divided. I don't want to miss whatever it is you've got for me. I need something. And that was Saturday night, and somewhere in there, I just felt peace that God's going to show me. God's going to show me. It's coming. I went home, went to sleep, woke up the next morning. I was behind on my message to preach for Sunday because I'd been seeking the Lord's will so much. But I wasn't too worried because I knew I was walking with God. I didn't have an outline. I didn't have a message, but I knew I was close to God, and it was going to be okay. I woke up Sunday morning, and I'm seeking the Lord, and I'm looking for a message as I'm reading. And all of a sudden, that Sunday morning, I was just not looking for a message anymore. And I was just, okay, this is the time. There was a spiritual, very unique time. And it was just like, God is going to show me something right now. And I put my Bible aside there, and I was like, and I got down on my knees, and I prayed, and I was just submitting to the Lord, and I just said, Lord, you lead, and I'll do what you say, and show me the way. And I raised my hand up, and as I was kneeling there next to our bed, and I just said, Lord, would you send me a sign? And as I raised my hand and said, Lord, send me a sign, my phone went ding, indicating an email had come in. And that's hilarious. But I knew it was there. And I walked over and I picked up my phone and I walked out of the room. And my wife and kids, they were getting ready because we had church here coming up pretty quick. And I just said, hey, everybody, come over here. I want to show you something. Everybody gathered around, and I opened up my phone, and there was that email from Pastor Bishop in Alexandria, Virginia. And he said, how strange. I answer all my emails before I go to bed every day. And for some reason, your email slipped through for 2 weeks. And maybe it's not a coincidence that I'm answering you right now. And I'm like, okay. And he said, DC is in desperate need of preachers. We need church plants. We need pastors to come take churches that are here. We need desperately to have some help. And then he used the phrase, jump in, the water's fine. And I looked at my wife, and we began to cry a little bit. My kids were looking at each other like, what are you even talking about? And but we knew something was powerful. And I think that was the fourth little thing. The fifth thing, and I'm trying to wrap this up. It's a big frazzled mess here. But we walked to church, and Leslie and his wife Betty, we had been grooming them for 10 years. We had led both of them to the Lord and discipled them, and they were the managers of our radio station and Sunday school teachers, and he was being groomed to take the church. And he was actually beginning a series on Jonah, and I'd given him some curriculum helps in Sunday school, and I'm sitting up on the platform, and Leslie opens up the Bible, turned to Jonah, and our people are there, and I'm thinking, Leslie, this guy is sharp. This guy is good. I'm so excited. And he opens up, and he starts reading verse 1, and then he reads verse 2. Arise, go, cry. And that was our call. And something happened maybe more powerful than anything I've ever felt. And I felt like everybody was looking at me, and I just stared at the Bible. Those words were just glowing. Arise, go, cry against that great city, for their wickedness has come up before me. And it was not Jonah and Nineveh. It was us, and it was Washington, D.C., the great city of power and politics. And I looked up, I barely gathered the strength to look up, and nobody was looking at me. They were all looking at Leslie as he's teaching. He's doing a great job talking about this, except for my wife. And she's looking at me, and I'm looking at her. And we're like, wow, okay, this is it. This is it. So I think I gave you 5 reasons. Those are the things. That's how we knew God was directing us to D.C.
The one you didn't mention was our authorities were in agreement.
So that's right. So that was that next Monday, that next week. The first person I called was my dad. I said, Dad, I gave the whole thing I just gave you. And he said, son, that's great. Any time God gives you direction, start stepping, start going. Direction is wonderful. I called my pastor there in Idaho, and he said, I've been praying for 50 men to go to D.C. and do something. We need something. I'm praying for 49 now. Okay. And so, yeah, that was the authorities that we had were really directing us and leading us. And it's a blessing. Thank you, sir. It was good for me to say that. I haven't said that in a while. Thank you.
Other questions? Right here, Brother McFeeters.
So what, you're not able to meet with the shutdown, what are you doing to engage with your church family on a weekly basis?
Yeah.
It's good.
Great question. So we have Thursday night midweek service and then Sunday morning. And for 2 months, we just basically had my wife and I talking to Facebook just like we're doing right now with nobody. And then we started having a few people over at our house. And that's currently what we're doing. We also have 2 other elements, and that is Saturday night prayer meeting at the Supreme Court. We gather everybody. And then we have Sunday evening at the park, and we gather at the park. And those 2 things are very effective. People come and take pictures and videos, and other people are just like, shaking their heads and rolling their eyes and, well, what's going on? And then other people, and I would say the majority, come and they're very curious and they're very interested. And, even if they're not even going to come to church or anything, they're just like, wow, this is amazing. And so I think it's a very good witness to just not have a building and be out in the in public, as long as we don't quit.
We've also used Zoom Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights.
That's right. Oh, Zoom,
And
which
for
is
discipleship.
yeah.
FaceTime.
FaceTime and Zoom for discipleship things. So we've tried to dial in a little bit more on discipling the people that we do have. So I think it would be hard to prove because I can't say numbers. I think we've actually grown during this cease to assemble. At least I hope. But the numbers on Facebook are huge, but I don't know. We'll see.
Brother Cook, go ahead.
I just had a question about, and you can speak to either one, the transition to or the transition from New Guinea. What was I guess maybe the biggest impact going there and coming back, maybe either one specifically, on you or your kids? I would assume the kids maybe more so, just because as adults we kind of are able to handle it better. But what was like the biggest, I guess, maybe thing that was difficult to deal with, I guess, maybe in either one of those transitions?
Well, actually, I think the kids were much more flexible than we are. They kind of came in there. All of a sudden, we live at Capitol Hill. Okay.
That's fans.
Yeah. So I don't know. We tried to just integrate the best we could wherever we were at, instead of holding on to, as a kid, Boise State. We had to. So we came in and said, all right, we are, whatever sport is being played, we are home team. So we are Redskins, we are Washington Nationals, we are all these things. And that actually really helps a lot.
And we've won the World Cup and the World Series since we've been there.
Yeah.
So it really helped a lot.
That's a sign.
So all those activities in society that have those identifying marks really help you with that identification. It really helps you take that stamp and, okay, this is who I am, this is our team, and we have something in common. All these people wearing these shirts, and so that really helps. We did that in New Guinea as well. Some things that we have dogmatically stood against, and there'll be many of those that whatever society you're in, you're like, we're not doing that, and our society's doing that, but we are not. And so you've got to find other things that you can do with your society to be acceptable, to meet them halfway, because you are not going to budge on this one. Not budge on this, but I'll be the biggest football fan or whatever. But this is, and I think our kids adopted to that pretty quick, adapted to it, and we struggled a little bit more. Yeah. So, you got something to add to that?
I know the first week in Papua New Guinea, my husband took me around to see every store in Mount Hagen. He also took me the first week to get my driver's license and said, "You will drive." And then he really didn't allow me to foster fears of places, you know, because it can be a dangerous place in New Guinea, but we didn't foster that. He didn't allow us to do that. And my kids are pretty fearless. Even now, you know, walking up and down the streets of DC, sometimes I'm like, okay, they need to have a little fear here, but they just feel like they're God's, the children of the King, and invincible. But I think that was huge. Like, I hadn't been there. I was in the bush with Mom and Dad for not very long, and you guys sent me off to see a wedding, a village wedding, and I thought it was going to be flowers and beautiful. It was not that at all. I was there by myself and got to experience that. Of course, I was a married woman, but still, doing things alone with the people and not being afraid of their culture is very important.
I think that's a big thing. So integrate, find out the resources, use the products.
Yeah.
Don't pine away for what you don't have.
Yeah.
Never compare. You know, in the South we do this, or in the North we do that, or we have this product, or they have that product.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised what's there, and you'll get a taste for it right away.
Yeah.
And you just jump in. This is where I live, rooted. I'm putting down roots right where I'm at. Otherwise, you're reaching back way over here, and
Don't expect it to be like America at all, you know, and teach your kids. If
don't
you
expect
can.
DC to be like America either.
It's easy to talk about in conversation. You're going to want to talk about your old life, and you have to kind of, we get together and have a family huddle. Let's talk about what they want to talk about and build as many bridges as we possibly can.
Excellent. Joanne?
Do you find that DC, you mentioned about crime, do they have a high percentage of crime with, in DC? I mean,
I believe they do.
I mean, it's the most beautiful city, really, we've been there 4 times.
It used to be like the number 4, I think, for homicides. Is that what?
Yeah, so it's a city with all sorts of different people, and there are parts of DC that are very dangerous and would rank in the highest crime rate in the states. And there's other parts of DC that are the complete opposite. So DC is a miniaturized America. So there are 435 offices in Congress, and they are representative of every district in the United States. So every people group and everybody and every mentality is representative and usually represented. And usually people hire people from their area. So, and then a couple of miles away, you have Embassy Row, and we have all but what 4 or 5 nations of the world are represented there. So DC is a miniaturized world. It's a miniaturized United States. And so is there crime? Oh yeah. Is there wealth? Oh yeah. Is there poverty? Oh yeah. Oh yeah is the answer. It's all there.
Thank you for your information.
Yeah.
Amen. Very good. I do want to ask one question, Brother Wells.
Sir.
And that is outside the specific realm of the ministry of Graceway Baptist Church.
Yeah.
You've now been there for over 5 years, and as you have, you've communicated in the halls of Congress,
Yes.
in the halls of power. What specific structures have you seen materialize? In other words, what particular responsibilities have you put upon yourself in connection, say, maybe with Capitol Hill, maybe with the White House, that affects either your daily or weekly routine in what you do in Washington, D.C.?
There are so many meetings. There are so many meetings that you could go to every single day that are this group, that group, talking about these rights, those rights, this opportunity, and we need to get together in this. It's amazing. So you have to be very selective about what you do. And so I would definitely say I've pushed back and not went to more meetings than I've went to. But there are a few that I go to, and those are ones where I see that There's more of a spiritual presence, a Christian presence, and people that are a bit more like-minded to myself that I kind of select. Now, that's pretty natural. But then opposite of that, there is another desire that I have, and that is I actually want to have meetings with Democrats, and I want to have meetings with people that will not agree with me in any way. And those are the people I'd really like to meet with. And it seems like I have meetings with all the people that we all love, and you kind of get bragging rights. Oh, I met with him. We did a little Bible study in Isaiah 14 with this guy, and that's neat. But that's probably not the biggest need, because they're already a Christian. They're already strong. In a sense, I take it upon ourselves, and Deborah comes with me a lot, to meet with these people and bolster them and strengthen them. And a lot of times it's at key times. It's uncanny how God unites us. And I'll get a verse. I'll be like, let's write this out. And I had some blank just business cards, and I would hand write out a little verse, and on the back say, we're praying for you. And I'd go in and give it to somebody, and they'd be blown away. And God does that. But what I want to do, I really want to do, and it's harder, it's supernatural, is I want to meet with the people that aren't really looking to meet with me. And they're pushing back. And I've had a few of those meetings, and those are pretty exciting. Those are some of my favorite. One, I had a pocket full of handwritten cards that my wife and my kids had written out, and I had them in my pocket. And I'm looking for some opportunities, and I'm trying to talk to people. And there was a whole bunch of people coming. This is my first year, and they're walking down the hall, and I'm just trying to step out of the way. And I stepped over here, and here they come. And I saw a little door, much like this little door, and I just sort of walked in that room, thinking people would walk past. And they all walked in that room, and now we're all in this room. And I was like, oh! And it was the commencement of a ship. They're celebrating this ship, and this short older lady walked right up to me on my left side and took my arm, and I looked down, and she just looked up at me and just smiled and shook her head and said, "Thank you so much for what you do." And I had my hand on my little Bible verses, and I said, "Well, you're welcome. Yeah, it's okay." And she didn't know who I was, and she's talking to me. "Thank you so much for what you do." So it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing, the people that God allows us to be.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Pastor Wells. Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Wells. And thank you, all of you. And so we will take a break now.